All right, it looks like the trickle around the entry door has slowed. So I will invite the candidates and Pastor Cliff Pace to come forward. All right, I'm going to give up this microphone for the first and only time of this forum, but it goes to the man who truly deserves it. It is the pastor of this church, and can y'all give this church a round of applause for being willing to host an event like this?
We are glad you're here. We're so thankful we could host the event for the community. It's such an important thing for us to hear from these men who are running for this office, and we thank the Lord for them, and we want to give them an opportunity just to tell you their views, and I think it's important that we hear from them. And so I'm just going to pray for us, but I am going to say this. Whoever prepared the food, thank you very much for that. We did not do that, but thank you. Thank you for being here. If you do need the restrooms, you've probably already figured this out already. They are down either hallway to the end, and on the right if you go this way, and on the left if you go this way. But thank you for being here. Let me pray for us, and I'll give this back to Cole. Father, thank you for today. Thank you for our life. And thank you for the country that we live in, the freedom that we have to choose those who serve us. And we pray you bless this night. Pray you give us a good time together. And use these men, whichever one is chosen, use them to magnify your name and to bless this district and to bring health and prosperity and growth and life and truth to this community. And it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Up Steve West, Lance Calvert, Bryce Futch, and Brian Will. And give them a collective round of applause if you can. They were given an option to do a draft of where they would choose to sit, but they said they all really love each other. They threatened to swap votes for each other and said they didn't really care. So they chose to sit wherever they want to, and you can read into their alignment however you so choose. They have been given rules for this debate. They said they were the best rules they ever received. But we'll have a discussion. This is going to be about issues around faith, family, God, country, how we lead, how we move forward as a state. We're mostly believers in this room. Hopefully all of you are believers. If you're not, I think Pastor Pace would love to talk to you. But we're believers. We want to see God honored in the state of Georgia, and the questions that we ask will be along those lines as well. So we are, if you're not familiar with our organization, Frontline Policy Council and Frontline Policy Action, I'm the president, for better or worse, of both of them. We are distinctly and unashamedly Christian organizations. We do not shy from the fact that God commands us, first of all, to love God, and secondly, to love our neighbor. And what is in God's word is what is good for our neighbor. Those that want to, thank you very much. Thank you. Those that toss around, fake terms like Christian nationalism, which I can't really define, try to really distract from the fact that God's word is truth, and it is good. And so when we ask these questions today, it's not about imposing our ideology on people. It's about making sure that what is good and what is right for the family is upheld in Georgia. I am grateful for each of these candidates. They have stepped forward to serve. If you think you get rich by serving in the Georgia General Assembly, you are wrong. Most of these people will sacrifice financially to do so. This is a calling. They will give extensive amount of time to serve. This is something that God put on their heart, and I'm very grateful for them stepping forward. Whoever it is that is elected, can each of you, by show of hands, commit to praying for that person? You've each seen it. These people will pray for you. They will lift you up. They will encourage you. They will hold you accountable if you step out of line, and particularly if you lie to them today. I really wouldn't like that, and they wouldn't like that either. But they will pray for you. They will lift you up, and they will understand that you have been placed there by God to serve. A couple other things. We have, Stephanie Donegan could not make it, which she told us in advance. So if you've seen a graphic for this event, it said she was unable to attend. I know that she would have loved to attend, but she had some obligations. If you've seen those same graphics, you also would have seen that Jason Dickerson did plan to attend. I have a statement from him, including in that statement, it says, "I'm so incredibly sorry I couldn't join tonight at the Frontline Values and Leadership Forum. we had a family emergency come up that required my attention, and we welcome your prayers. Jason also said, a number of things that are aligned with our ministry, but I will let Flo Valdez, who's with his staff, directly answer any questions you may have about where he stands. You can visit his table, and you can also visit the tables of the other candidates that are here. And if they say anything you don't like today, ask a follow-up. And if they say something you really do like, feel free to ask a follow-up. But get to know these guys, ask for their cell phones, and I'm sure they would love to give it to you, especially if you will call them at 1 a.m. With that, we will get started. Let me say a couple other things. They will have an opportunity if they attack one another to have a response. I've done this now. I think we've done this exact format 4 or 5 times. That doesn't always work super well. People don't love that, but you have an opportunity. The high stakes are high, right? You want to hear contrast between some of the candidates. So they will have a chance to answer and discern, and you have a chance to determine whether you like that or not. There's an opportunity to draw that contrast. I will determine whether there's an attack between the candidates or just a contrast, and that the response will vary based on whether it's an attack or a contrast. And with that, I think we can just get rolling because y'all are tired of hearing me talk, and these are the people you actually vote for. They were given the opening statement question before, and in case you don't know them, because I'm not giving them a chance to do their biography right off the bat, they can weave that in as they go, and you'll see how smooth they are. Brian Will is closest to me. Steve West is next to him. Lance Calvert is next to him, and Bryce Futch is next to him. The only other thing I will say directed to you as an audience, people find excessive clapping annoying. But people do like to know when they've said something really good. I, as a very sensitive person, I like to know when I say something smart. So people clap. I feel good about myself. Do the same for these candidates. Thank you very much. But keep it to 1, 2, 3. All right. If you really like what they say, because we want to get to as many questions as we can. Now I am done talking. Opening statement question for each of them, and they have 2 minutes to answer this question. As Christians, we often use the phrase from the book of Esther for such a time as this. As we consider our community, our state, and our nation, what time is it in Georgia? What is the significance of this moment in history? And what makes you uniquely qualified, uniquely suited for such a time as this? Each of you have 2 minutes.
It's interesting. I think we all saw what happened in Pennsylvania last year when somebody almost took Trump out with a gunshot. And I think there's a overwhelming thought process that God saved his life that day. And I'm one of those people that thought that. I got to tell you, I wasn't proud to be an American the last 4 years. And after he won that election and got elected, I started to have hope again. And I think that hope came from saving his life that day. That hope came from God. And it's part of the reason why I decided to run for Senate District 1, because I think we have an opportunity now that we haven't had in a long time, both at the federal level and now in the state of Georgia level, to bring some real both business and Christian values to the state to do the things that need to get done for the people and the citizens that live here.
Awesome. Steve.
I am Steve West. I've been a lifelong resident of Cherokee County on my 10.5 year of the Board of Commissioners. I had to go to a funeral today, and the lady was my business partner's mother. She was 98 years old. She liked one day being 98 years old. So I was thinking about what time we're in at this point in time, and I was thinking her husband passed away 20 years ago. I was thinking about when they got rejoined on July the 15th at 10:30 in the morning, and they got to talking about what's going on now 20 years later after her husband had passed. You think about what was going on 20 years ago. We didn't have to worry about transgender. We didn't have to worry about people giving their kids drugs to postpone puberty. We didn't have to worry about radical left-wing agenda. But now that we've got it, we've got to go out, step forward, and take charge. Like Brian said, we've got an opportunity to go out and take charge of our country now. And I would think with my experience in the county, working with other folks, and my contacts at the state level already, I think that I would be a good candidate to go down and run District 21 and do a good job for us.
The first thing I think of is time to fight. The Bible says when the righteous rule, the people prosper. This nation was handed over. All you have to do to hand this nation over to the enemy is to do nothing. And we sat and we allowed a big void, and for all the mountains of influence in this nation to really be taken at large in part by the enemy. And our children have confusion, and that shouldn't be that way. Double-mindedness creates a space of indecision, and it creates disunity. We need to be single-minded. We need to end abortion 100%. We need to eliminate the state income taxes. We can do it. There's corruption. There's corporate tax incentives that shouldn't be going on while common people are sitting there struggling in their homes. School choice needs to be school choice. That's liberty, that's freedom. You should be able to do whatever you want to do with your children and wherever they want to go to school. It's time to get out of the church pews and get out of our homes and go take this country back from what was taken from us. And that's going to take grit and a fight. It's going to be through gentleness and kindness and patience and love. And it's going to be through self-control. But it's going to be through standing in single-mindedness and taking this country back.
My name is Bryce, and I think that we are at a time for choosing. We have been poorly represented in this seat for a long time. And I think it's an opportunity to put someone in place who is going to value families. From day one, our campaign has been based on the idea that strong families build strong communities build strong states. When we look at the opportunities in front of us, we need someone with the right experience. Whether it's a time in ministry, it's a time working and serving locally, we need folks who understand what it's like to be a normal Georgian, somebody who understands what it's like to have kids that are being victimized, right? Ideas have consequences, bad ideas have victims. We're at a unique point. This next session coming up in 2026, 1/3 of the current state Senate is going to be gone. They're going to be running for other offices, they're going to be retiring, and whoever you select as your next representative is going to have an opportunity to make real change, because seniority comes with that change. There's an opportunity here to ban puberty blockers. We've been talking about this since day one. Children are our future. And if children don't know what they're going to be, and children are victimized by doctors, they're mutilated, they're wounded, they have no future, these are things of real concern. I think it's an opportunity to actually make a difference and move the ball on these critical issues.
I'll start with Lance this time. I want to get a sense of everyone's ideology. So we throw around terms like conservative or MAGA or establishment or rhino. What is your core ideology? How do you make decisions, and what do you rely on in that process? Start with Lance.
I was born again 17 years ago when my first daughter was 1. I've got 4 children now. Everything changed that day. I gave my life to Jesus Christ, and it transformed me. I was one of those radical transformations. And so I began to learn what it's like to live for God. And at that stage, I've built my life based on those principles. And so first, it's the Lord Jesus Christ, and understanding that He's it, and He's going to use men to change things. But first, we got to change on the inside. So my ideology is that. I mean, I'm a patriot. I'm a MAGA camp Republican, and I believe that God put Trump in place as the beginning of what he's got to do, but now it's got to run down to the state level and all the way throughout the country in order for us to do it. He's going to do it through men, but he's the one that's going to change it.
Bryce.
Same question?
Yes.
Yeah, so my ideology is based off a quote that I heard a long time ago from a man named Abraham Kuyper. Kuyper said, "There's not 1 square inch of the whole of human existence of which Christ, who is sovereign over all, does not cry out, mine." And then the question is, how do we reclaim every inch? What does that look like? It looks like service. It looks like sacrifice. I definitely approach every area of life from a biblical worldview. I don't think you can separate your biblical beliefs and your vocation. Like Cole said at the beginning, I'm not a Christian nationalist. I don't think that's a thing. But I can tell you that we do have a wonderful, historic, natural law tradition in this country that brings these biblical truths to bear in every aspect of life. So we can argue with unbelievers about these issues, and we can come out on top. But biblical worldview, I think, is crucial. And yeah, it's all about every square inch.
Brian.
My ideology for this state Senate seat is going to take a little different turn. And I want everybody to remember that the state of Georgia, everything that happens in the state, every program that's out there, every decision that's made, everything that happens to you is about following the money at the state level. The state of Georgia is a $40 billion company, essentially. And right now we have a problem with incredible fraud, waste, and abuse in this state. So there are lots of programs that we'd like to do. There's an education savings account program that is 95% underfunded. Follow the money. There's a Pathways to Coverage program that's set up to help people get health insurance that don't have it. But we gave 65% of our money to a consultant. Follow the money. As a senator in this state, I have said since day one, my objective is to set up a DOJ caucus, much like we did at the federal level, but to create transparency at the state in the money, in the contracts, in the immigration, in the education. If we set up a DOJ caucus and we're able to start following the money and start cutting wasteful and abusive spending, there's no end to what we can do to make our lives better in this state. So my Senate campaign is about DOJ and follow the money.
Steve.
Well, my answer is going to be very simple. God, family, and country. That's my three basics. I grew up in a Southern Baptist home, and I've always raised my children in a Southern Baptist home. And we've got lots of issues, and I will take the Christian values to the Capitol.
All right. As we start talking about topics, I'm going to start it with a super easy one, abortion. I'm going to ask y'all just by show of hands, who is willing to pledge to defend Georgia's heartbeat law? Every hand went up? Okay. The second, I guess I don't have to ask the follow-up question. So to those whose hands did go up, you have 60 hands, which is all of you. You have 60 seconds to answer what is next in your view in the fight for life. And I think, Bryce, you're the first one that hasn't started. So I'll throw that one to you.
Yeah, so I think there's two things. One, we need to make sure that we codify the Medicaid funding. So the Big Beautiful Bill removed Medicaid funding from all abortion facilities. They've been talking a lot about Planned Parenthood, but it's all abortion facilities in the state. We have 13, 4 of them are Planned Parenthood, 9 are other abortion mills. But we need to make sure that cut is permanent so that the next administration, whether it's Republican or Democrat, can't come in and change that. I also think we need to crack down on chemical abortion pills. This is the main problem in Georgia. After the heartbeat bill, abortions have actually ticked up. And the reason they've ticked up is because out-of-state doctors have been prescribing abortion pills over the phone. And it's criminal, and it needs to stop. So for us, I think we take it to the next level. I'm for, I think the next target is those chemical abortion pills because that's the primary cause of current abortions in Georgia.
Lance, I'll throw it to you. We'll kind of do an inverse order here. So
Yeah. I think if life begins at conception, the next step for abortion is to criminalize it completely 100%. I've seen they've recorded conception on a screen, and the little light orb from heaven goes in there and breathes life into that moment. God knew you before the foundation of the world. Before it was made, He thought of you. And you can argue about rape victims, you can argue about this, but God can take situations like that and turn something beautiful into it. And human life begins at conception, and so it should be criminalized and completely outlawed. It's time to end abortion and let Georgia pioneer that effort stronger than anywhere in the country. You want to see God bless this country and this state? Put that thing out of business, and you'll watch what He'll do. We won't have to think about gambling money and all these different humanistic ways to get money and to abolish the state income tax, because He'll breathe on it, and it'll change everything if we get rid of that mess.
Steve.
Well, I think all 4 of us are on the same page as abortion. I think Bryce makes a good point with the abortion pill, and I think we should outlaw it completely.
Okay. And Brian.
Sure, I'm going to take this one step further. Ladies and gentlemen, it's one thing to say that we want to do it. It is a second thing to be able to go down to the state with 236 members of the House and Senate and collaborate with enough people to actually get it done, okay? We can say it all day, but what you want to do is vote for somebody that has the ability to go down there and get a bill that will pass, and that is through collaboration and coalescing around an idea. We can't just say it. We have to actually do the work to get it done, and that happens in the Capitol.
Since it was referenced by two of you, I was going to ask a question about the abortion pill, which has now been opened up for access by mail by the Biden administration. That does not only lead to abortions, but it's incongruent with our heartbeat law, which requires an in-person visitation. If we put a bill before the state Senate that required an in-person visitation to be prescribed the abortion pill, are there any of you that would not vote for such a bill? Okay.
Question.
If we put forward a bill before the state Senate that required an in-person visitation in order to be prescribed the abortion pill, and the abortion pill could no longer be sent by mail, are there any of you that would not vote for such a bill? Okay. Sounds
Not
good.
only would I vote for it, I'd sponsor it.
What was that?
Not only would I vote for it, I'd sponsor that bill.
Okay. All right. Last question on the life issue. It sounds like a strong pro-life sentiment among the candidates, but many would argue that we're losing on the life issue politically. How do you agree with that statement, and what should be done about that, and how do you really turn standing for the cause of life into a political winner, both at the ballot box, at the Capitol, but also culturally, to have a Georgia where abortion is not only illegal, but also unthinkable? And Steve, I'll start with you.
Well, first of all, it's going to be the churches. We need to start in the churches and start reaching out to folks that are considering it and put God out there. People don't realize that these people out there are doing these abortions, and we need to go out and search them out and try to talk, teach them what's going on and offer them other opportunities. We need to teach them about adoption. We need to go out and streamline our adoption properties, our adoption policies, so that it makes it easier for people to adopt babies. And so that would be a couple of things right there that I would fight for.
Brian.
Me?
Yep.
Here's what I want everybody to understand. The reason we're losing this fight is because Georgia has turned purple. And right now we are 6 seats away from losing the Senate, and we are 11 seats away from losing the House. And we are 1 election away from losing the governor. The most important thing we can do as Republicans in this state, first of all, is vote. I got to tell you, the PSC race that just happened in Senate District 21, only 1,300 Republicans voted out of nearly 100,000. If we lose a state, it's because apathy in voting, we didn't go do what we needed to do. We are an overwhelming force in this state, and we have the ability to take it back and push the things we want to push through. But if we don't go vote, we're going to lose it.
Bryce.
I think there's a few things. One, I disagree with Brian's view that we're turning purple. Brian Kemp, love him or hate him, outperformed Herschel Walker by 250,000 votes. We don't have a voting block problem. We have a candidate problem. We need good candidates to keep this state red. And it's not enough just to keep the state red. If you just have a majority, you have to use it for something, right? You can't just keep it red. You actually have to get conservative wins once it is red. I think the next step for winning on the life issue is by approaching it from a family-oriented perspective, right? The reason we're pro-family is because that encompasses every other policy area, right? Why do we want to cut the income tax? Why do we want to get rid of it? Because we want hardworking Georgians to keep more of their money so dads and moms can be more present in the home than at work. Why do we want to pass universal school choice? Because we think parents need to be the final decider on their child's education. Why do we want to ban puberty blockers? Because we believe children are being victimized by this harmful ideology. So if we want to continue to win on the life issue, we have to promote family, we have to push for pro-family policy, and we have to make abortion unthinkable for the people that are doing it.
Brian, since you were mentioned by name, do you want to respond to that at all? Or?
Sure. I encourage you not to stick your head in the sand and think just because Kemp got an extra 250,000 votes that we're going to win this next election.
Oh yeah, no, please do go vote. Please do go vote. Yes.
Okay. Lance.
The liberals are unified. And so if we're turning purple, it's because they have unity. They are full vent on abortion being something that they radically promote. And that's sick. It's sick, and it shouldn't be that way. But they're unified, and that's blessed on either side of the enemy or God. And I'm telling you that we've got to come together with a firm, single-minded unity about what we're for and what we're against. So if God's waiting for not these softballs, but for us to say it's wrong, let's get rid of it. And if we come together as the Republican Party, there's nothing we can't do. So we've got to come together in unity, but that's only going to come through single-mindedness. We can't be flip-flopping about it is in softball. And if I go down to the state Senate and somebody sends some legislation that's not as firm as I am on this, but it's headed in the right direction, why can't I vote for that and still be as firm about the truth as I'm being? And I'll build that coalition around myself, and we'll get it done.
Awesome. I just have to say, I really appreciate the brevity of all these candidates. They're not even pushing on their time. I've not had to tell anybody to shut up at all. It's been very, very nice. Y'all got great candidates here. Yeah, well, a lot of practice. I'm going to ask you a series of questions about gambling, and the first series is going to be a show of hands, and then I will give you a chance to pontificate, okay? So I'm going to ask you, I think, 4 questions. You can raise your hand. You can keep your hand down. I won't ask you any clarifying on those things, but then you'll get a chance to pontificate about your position, if that makes sense. So first question, if you can raise your hand, and let me give the caveat here. A lot of people try to on the gambling issue, try to hide behind or say, well, look, it's about the people vote, not what I support. What I'm asking you in these questions is, would you vote for a resolution that puts the constitutionality of gambling expansion before the people? Because that's really where this issue is decided. So I'm asking your position on if any of these forms come before you, would you vote for such a bill that then would put it on the ballot for the people, or would you vote to stop it because you believe it's bad for the state of Georgia? Does that make sense?
Sort of.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, yes, if you would vote to put it on the ballot for people to vote on. No, if you think this is bad, and I don't think people should get a chance to vote on it. Does that make sense? Okay. Raise your hand if you would vote to allow horse racing in the state of Georgia, or vote to allow the people to vote on it. Again, that's the same thing in my view. Okay. Raise your hand if you would vote to allow casinos in the state of Georgia. Raise your hand if you would allow sports betting in the state of Georgia. I guess raise your hand if you would oppose all forms of gambling expansion.
All forms of expansion?
All forms of gambling expansion.
Okay.
Okay? All right. Well, with that answer, I still want to give you a chance to pontificate. Please give your thoughts on whether gambling expansion is good or bad for Georgia, why, and whether that is something you feel strong enough to perhaps even oppose state leadership if they supported it and were asking you to vote for such a thing. I'm going to start skipping around a little bit to try to give you a little bit of variation, but we'll go with Steve first this time.
Well, first of all, I don't gamble. I can't afford it. I don't like. Right now, the only choice we got would be to go to Cherokee or Murphy or Mississippi, but I personally don't do it, don't believe in it, and I don't support it at all.
Okay. Bryce.
Yeah, I'm very opposed to gambling. If we look at what is the purpose of government, it's to promote virtue, to punish vice, and secure individual and economic liberty. And I don't think we should ever promote a vice to then fund a virtue such as education or something else. And I think this district is fundamentally opposed to gambling, and so because of that, I would represent this district and oppose even leadership on these issues.
Okay. Brian.
Sure. I'm glad you define the expansion of gambling, because as everybody knows, we have the lottery here in Georgia. And the lottery funds about $1.5 billion worth of college scholarships for our students. And if anybody tried to take that away, I can tell you they'd never get another vote in this state, or never get elected, we'll put it that way. The expansion of gambling, I'm against, totally against. I don't think we need to go down that road. As far as standing against a senior House or a senior Senate member, I'm my own person, so I'm not going to be persuaded by somebody like that.
Lance.
So in if I go down to the state Senate and legislate, I'm going to base my legislation and let my heart be ruled on if it's moral, if it's constitutional, if it limits the size of government, and if it increases your individual freedom. Gambling is not good for our state. It's not good for the people of our state. It's surrounded with an addiction and other addictions. There's nothing good about it. It's a humanistic way to solve money problems. We don't need that. Again, you do the right thing morally, and there's a supernatural approach to what God can bless. It's His, and we need to look at things from the truth and the ability to get back. You want a few bucks to compromise so people can have addictions and all kinds of family issues. I'm against it, and if I'm against something and I have to stand up to any kind of other government official about it, then I'll stand up to them about it, because I'm not going to flip-flop on any of that.
So I'm supposed to be kind of an observer or bystander, but I do want to say thank all of you for your opposition to gambling. I'm appreciative of that. That's the position that our organization holds, and if you get to the state senate and you vote for expanding gambling, you just lied in a church. So, like, but I do want to kind of double down on some of the themes that we've been talking about. You will be, Lord willing, a member of a 33+ member Republican majority. That's a narrow majority in the state senate, but it is nonetheless a majority. But you're one of 33. And there's a whole nother chamber across the Capitol that sometimes gets along with the Senate and sometimes doesn't. Georgia has one of the largest legislatures in the entire world. There's 236 members. We have a speaker, we have a lieutenant governor, we've got a governor. Sometimes they all work really well together, sometimes they don't. You as a member are not able to dictate what you want to the rest of the chamber or to the Georgia General Assembly or to the state. You have to work with other people. What is your philosophy on principle versus compromise? Is that a versus at all? Or how do you meld those two things when you're trying to work with other colleagues? Would you take a vote maybe to help another colleague, even if you might minorly disagree with it? How would you stand up to leadership? Because sometimes leadership can say, I want to help your district, but you got to be with me on this. What is your philosophy? And I want to give you 2 minutes to pontificate on this, because I think most of these decisions are made behind closed doors in caucus meetings. And most of the difference between each of you is not necessarily how you're going to vote, because you got a deep red district, but it may be in terms of how you think and how you lead and how you connect with other people. So with this one, I'm going to start with Bryce.
Sure. Yeah, coalitions are crucial. Politics is the art of the possible, right? That's why we got the big, beautiful bill done. We have to find ways to move the needle, even if it's a 2 or 3 yard gain when we're trying to take it all the way to the end zone. And so the question is, how do you scale back? And what does that look like? And how do you horse trade, right? I think you have to maintain those principles, those core principles that you believe are essential. So for me, that's the life issue. It's the moral issues are what is essential, and everything else is based off preference. So do I want to get rid of the income tax? Yes, income tax has to go. Burt Jones just put together a committee to study the income tax to get rid of it. That's the main reason I supported him when he ran for lieutenant governor. It's got to get out of here. But if somebody comes back and says, look, we can cut it by half, would you support that? Absolutely, I'd support it, right? But if they said, hey, we need you to vote for this bill that is going to expand gambling, since we just talked about that, and in order to do that, if you vote to expand gambling, we'll get your puberty blocker bill up on the table. Absolutely not. Because again, we're not going to trade one vice for another virtue, right? So if we look at the right role of government, is it to promote virtue, punish vice, secure individual economic liberty? We have to check those boxes. And if the legislation that we're being asked to support doesn't check any of those 3 boxes, then I'm not going to support it. Doesn't matter what's offered, doesn't matter what's on the table. I think it's crucial that we maintain these core principles, because that's what you're looking for as folks looking for a representative. You're looking for who has the principles that align most with yours, and if we go down there and trade on those, we've betrayed your vote.
Brian.
I think you're going to hear the same answer from everybody, and it is collaborate but not compromise. And that means that whatever the idea or the bill is that is trying to put forward, you need to collaborate all the way up to the point where you must compromise, and then you take a step back. The difference there is that you need to make sure you have somebody who is an expert negotiator in that collaboration so that you can push that idea or that bill much farther along than it would be if you were not. So the answer you're going to hear over and over is collaborate without compromise. You're going to hear the same thing.
Lance.
Is it me?
Lance.
I love these answers, both of them. I think that, in the government at our federal level, we've seen a piece of how corrupt it really is. On the state level, it's just as bad. And so if I'm going to go down there and plan on shaking hands to, go, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, that I'm going into the beast unprepared of what we need to do. We've got to go down there and stand up for the truth and turn the whole boat around. That's happening, and it's beginning on the federal level. It's being handed down to the states, and it's time to be able to stand no matter what. Again, if it's moral, if it's constitutional, if it limits government, increases your individual freedom, I'm going to legislate based on those principles. But I'm going to convince my fellow senators that this is the right way to go and that this is how we're going to turn things around. More money will come into the government if we give the money back to the people. More righteousness will come into the government if we give freedom and money and all the stuff, eliminating the state income tax and getting rid of abortion and getting rid of all these things. The money will pour into the government because they've sown into the people, and that stuff will come into the government, and I'll convince them that they'll be blessed. The government will be blessed for starting to do this again for the people.
Steve.
So over my past 10 and a half years working with the county, the negotiation skills we have really worked hard on that, and that is kind of my strong form. The first year I ran against a 12-year incumbent. I won. And the last 2 terms, I ran unopposed, and I'm going to credit that to my negotiations and being able to move things forward, getting things done, and that's done by working with other folks. We've had to go out. I've negotiated a settlement on a $10 million lawsuit. I had to walk right into enemy territory there, and it was over a gun shooting range. And I met with the property owner and the neighborhood that filed the lawsuit. Nobody else would touch it. But we went in and negotiated and worked it out and settled a $10 million lawsuit. So I've been really fortunate, and I've got the experience to negotiate with other lawmakers. So I'm ready to move forward with that at the state level.
All right. This should be a one-word answer for each of you, just as we try to get a sense of your priorities. Let's say each of you get a magic wand, and you don't get a matching tutu, but you get a magic wand, and you get to wave that, and you are instantly the chairman of a Senate committee. What committee do you want to be chairman of, Brian?
Appropriations.
Steve?
Transportation.
Lance?
Appropriations.
Bryce?
Appropriations.
Okay, we got some money people and some road people, so that's good. I want to talk about K-12 public education. How is Georgia doing at educating our young people? And are we doing a good job recognizing the authority of parents? Steve.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
K-12 public education. How is Georgia doing at educating our young people? And are we doing a good job recognizing the authority of parents? 60-second answer, and I'll throw it to Steve.
Well, the education question is very dear to me. I've got an 8-year-old granddaughter that was she diagnosed mild autism, and she was going to public school, and she was struggling. She couldn't read a word. So with the grant, she got a grant from because of her diagnosis, and she was able to take her money and go to a scholarship and go to a private school. So we enrolled her in private school this year, and now she's reading books in front of the class. So I think what we need to do as far as the school level is to go out and expand our scholarship program to start with, and eventually go to the unilateral choice, school choice.
Okay. Brian.
Sure, we have about 1.6 million kids in the K through 12 program out there right now, and roughly 400,000 of them are in schools that have deemed to be in the bottom 25% academically. So the overall answer to the question, I think, is it depends on the school system. Cherokee County, Senate District 21, is in the top 13%. We actually have a pretty good school system. So it very much depends on the system you're in, the teachers you've got, et cetera. One of the things that's out there right now is the school voucher program to give these children in the lower 25 percentile an opportunity to move. The challenge with the program, as I've said earlier, is it's 95% underfunded. We told 400,000 kids we'd give you an opportunity, and then we only funded for 20,000 of them. What about the other 380,000? We just tell them tough luck. These are one of the things we need to go in with DOGE. I can give you a real easy one. The Georgia Film Tax Credit. We're giving away $800 million a year to Hollywood to produce crazy movies. Why don't we simply take that money as an option and move it over to the school voucher program? We could fund 250,000 kids at that point and give them the option to go have a better school system. So the answer is it depends on the system, but once again, folks, we got to follow the money. And the money is there. We've just got to get it out of the hands of the people who don't need it and put it back where it goes, or should go.
Bryce.
Yeah, the school voucher program is a good start. Like Brian said, it's that bottom 25% of the students that are eligible to take it. The problem is we need universal school choice, and we need to put the money back in the hands of parents, because the problem we have is a worldview problem. We see this as the school system's money, not your taxpayer dollars that you are giving to educate a student. We don't need new money to fund the voucher program. We need students to take advantage of the voucher program, and we need to pull that money out of the public education system. That's where that money is supposed to come from. We don't need to double fund education in Georgia. We need to put that money on a debit card. We need to give that debit card to parents, and they need to be able to spend that on any education-related expense that they want, whether that's homeschool, whether that's private school, or whether that's going to the public school of their choice. We're pro-teacher, we're pro-school. We think kids deserve a world-class education, and unfortunately, they're not getting that here in Georgia today.
Lance.
I have 4 kids in Cherokee County schools. I have 2 daughters in high school. Judah's in middle school, but Judah has had IEP, and the funding was taken away from him early twice, and Melody had to fight for it and fight for it and fight for it. I want to bring forth legislation that looks into the motivation of why IEP and these type of programs or why the teachers and the systems are drawing to stop it early from the kids. But and so I think also that school choice needs to be immediate because it infringes on our individual freedom and liberty. But I want to bring vision down to the Capitol, and I believe that with the taxes, it's time to stop putting all the burden for schools on property tax and home ownership. Let's do a fair tax and spread that burden across everybody, and that way it's not just on homeowners, and we don't have to have these crazy hikes on property taxes and, again, eliminate the state income tax.
I'm going to do a couple show of hands questions again because those are fun. Greg Dolezal sponsored a great piece of legislation in 2024. I shouldn't have said great because that kind of gives an indication of where I'm at, so I apologize. He sponsored a piece of legislation expanding school choice, the largest expansion of school choice in state history. Some of you referenced it, addresses the 25% failing school districts. By show of hands, who would have voted for that bill? Who supports that bill? SB 2, yes, for the bill. Yeah. Okay.
I'm not.
Okay. All right. We got some
really
waffly hands, but we'll go with 4. By show of hands, who supports expanding that to every kid across the state? Because that is, a bill that is likely to come before you that would make it universal school choice, essentially the same concept, but every child, break down that 25% barrier. Every child, every Georgia family gets that option to go to the school, take their dollars to the school of their choosing. By show of hands.
That requires an explanation.
Okay. A Brian-inspired 15-second explanation for everybody. So, Brian, what's your explanation?
Do we have any school teachers or school administrators in the room? Several. Can you imagine what would happen if we took away all the stoplights and stop signs on our roadways? Chaos. Can you imagine if we told every child they could go anywhere they want to go with no barriers or limitations? Chaos. Schools would shut down, people would get fired. I'm not against the bill, but it has to be structured properly so that we don't create chaos in the system. It has to be done right, and then I'd vote for it.
Okay. Steve, do you need a clarifier?
Every bill's got to be structured to make it work. You can't just say we're going to give everybody school choice without having some kind of program in place to make it work.
Okay. Lance?
It's not your choice where my kids go to school.
Okay. Bryce?
Yep. Parents are the final decision maker on where their children go to school. Plenty of other states have done universal school choice. Florida's done it, Tennessee's done it, South Carolina's done it. It's worked very well in other states. There's no reason it can't work here. If we're expanding on what's there, there is a system in place, and it could happen tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Bills need to be structured. SB 233 has a structure to it, but I think the push that should you be elected, frankly, our organization and others will be coming and asking you about would be let's cut out if any mention of bottom 25%. Let's open it up for everybody. So that's going to be where we try to go with that. Because education is a really important issue, and I'm not going to be able to cover every facet of education, I want to give each of you just another 90 seconds to share a little bit about your philosophy on education, what reforms are needed to improve outcomes, whether we have problems with obscene materials or indoctrination in classrooms, what you would like to address, and if there's anything else that will support Georgia students and parents. And with that, I will start with Lance. You have 90 seconds to talk philosophy of education. So that's a lot, 90 seconds, but I believe each of you can do it. Lance.
Yeah, we need to teach math and science and English and the trades. There's zero ideology that needs to be in our schools. We need to protect from confusion. A boy is a boy and a girl is a girl, and little children are looking for adults to tell them the truth, the natural truth. You don't have to be a believer to know whether you're a girl or a boy. And so we've lost our way. That's ridiculous, and it needs to be protected in our schools, the absolute clear natural truth about children and human beings. And it needs to be about education, and we can restore this country to becoming the pioneers and the leaders once again like we were before in the best education system in the world.
Steve.
Okay, I'll go along with what Lance said about that, but I want to add something to it. So my son, he had HDAD real bad when he was a kid, and he just could not do the schoolwork. And he told me all along when he was a kid, he said, I don't know why you're making me go to school. I'm going to drive a dump truck for Papa when I get grown. So he had a tough time with it. But the problem is we don't have enough of the trade schools out there to train these kids that are not able to go to school. So I own a welding company, and it's hard for me to get a kid that can come out of, that has the skills to learn it. I can hire a welder a dime a dozen, but for one that can come out and fabricate, you got to have somebody to teach you how to do that. My brother's in a trucking company. He can't find truck drivers. So one of these days it's going to be hard to get your groceries because we don't have enough truck drivers. We can't get any welders. It's just bricklayers. So we need to expand our trade schools in this county.
Bryce.
With education, we need to, I've said it before, I'll say it again, it goes back to the parents, right? Parents know what your children need. You need to be the one making the decision on where they go. There's no industry in the world that does better with less competition. That's why if you have an education savings account and the money follows the student, you create a marketplace around education. I totally agree that we need folks who are skilled vocationally. We need people that are fantastic welders, that are great plumbers. We need all of that. But at the same time, we need them to be informed about the issues of the day. They're going to be the ones they're the next ones coming up to vote. They're the next ones coming up to have input on the future of our communities. And they need to be able to articulate our historic principles. They need to understand the Constitution. They need to understand history. They need to understand all of these things and how it ties together to an ordered society. So that when they're driving that dump truck and when they're fighting those fires, when they're standing in the gap as police officers, they're also voting and they understand the greater issues of the day. They haven't been trained like a robot just to do one task, but they've been filled out as a human being, right? That's the whole purpose of education. Education is there so that we can come into a fullness as a human being and understand these bigger issues and bigger ideas. We have to take an all-in approach.
Brian.
My daughter has an MBA. She's a director of development for the Salvation Army. My son just finished his master's in divinity, and he's now a hospital chaplain at Northside Hospital. I failed out of high school. That's my secret. I did manage to get back in and graduate with a 1.2 GPA for all you teachers. But that's because, believe it or not, I had great teachers. Without those great teachers who helped me get back in school and finish, I don't know what I'd be doing today. I did go in the military while I was in high school. I probably wouldn't have got in there. I think schools need to teach to the student, to their strengths and to their weaknesses, and we need to stop using the school system as a social experiment on our children. I'm for supporting school systems, I'm for supporting colleges, but I'm also supporting trade schools because I gotta tell you, I own some restaurants and my plumber makes more money than I do.
I woke up this morning in Cordele, Georgia, which most of y'all are smart people, but you probably don't know where Cordele is. I'm just guessing. Last night I was in McRae, Helena. Before that I was in Macon. Today I was in, outside of being in Cordele, I was in Rochelle, and I was in Warner Robins, and then I shot up here. This is a big state, and some of it's really boring to drive. But this, as a state senator, you're called to vote on issues that affect all of Georgia, but you are representing specifically Senate District 21. What is your philosophy on balancing local interest versus statewide interest? We do have a lot of issues that are very unique to South Georgia. They may not resonate in Cherokee County, and vice versa. How do you view your role as a statewide leader versus your role as a district representative? Steve, we'll start with you.
Well, first and foremost, I'll be representing District 21, and all these other senators out there be representing their districts, and that's where working together, you know, that's where it all comes to, that's where it all goes. You got to work together in order to support your district. You got to have the support from the other district senators. So the first thing you got to do is work your relationships to make sure your district's taken care of first, and then whatever they need, work with them to try to make it work out so everybody comes out good.
Brian.
We have two responsibilities in Senate District 1 in this Senate seat. The first is to our district, and that involves talking to the people that you represent, finding out what they want. What do you guys want? What is important to you? And that's why anybody I've met, I've given my phone number to, my email address. Talk to me. I swear I spend 10 hours a day on the telephone right now, and I'm not even been elected yet. I can't imagine what it's like for these guys. Secondarily, everything that we do in the state of Georgia helps everyone in the state of Georgia. So we have to look out for everyone, all 11 million people. We have to balance that against what the people in Senate District 21 want and what they want us to do. And so that's where we start.
Bryce.
I don't believe that you're electing me to vote my conscience. I think you're electing me to vote your conscience. And I think it starts with local representation, and then it goes from there. I do think there is room for compromise. I think compromise is crucial. You have to build those coalitions, but you can't do that at the expense of the people who sent you to the state Senate. There's an old saying that you have to dance with the one that brung you, and I'm going to dance with you. That was a laugh. Come on. That was a...
Lance.
The money that comes out of Cherokee County needs to return to the Cherokee County roadways and et cetera. So we need to take care of this district, and you know, there's statewide issues that will impact the entire state that I'm passionate about. But you know, we have some of the best schools maybe in the entire state. And when I talk about school choice or protecting confusion in our schools, I'm thinking about places that are less fortunate than Cherokee County, because we've got some really good school systems here. All four of my kids are in public schools. And just because I believe in school choice doesn't mean I don't love our schools and our teachers. I had a choice the whole time whether to keep them in public schools or not, and I have done that, and I'm grateful for that, and every single one of them. But, you know, this local community, I've been able to sit with them during this campaign and talk to them and hear their hearts, knock on doors. And I mean, you know, there was a woman that I knocked on her door the other day that told me, we're not sure we're going to be able to stay in this community because of the hiking property taxes. So that was straight from her mouth. So we've got some real change needed in this county, and I'm going to fight for it. So.
We've all heard the phrase MAGA, but I think we can agree that the backbone of a great society is the family unit. How would each of you work across all policy issues to make the family in Georgia great again? And I'll start with Bryce.
This is something that's near and dear to my heart. As a firefighter, 80% of the calls we run are medical calls. And out of those, probably half, if not a little more than half, are because the family is broken. Because there's someone who is alone, who doesn't have any kind of support, who doesn't have anybody to pick them up off the floor in the middle of the night. And I think that's a travesty. I think we need to empower Georgians to keep more of their hard-earned money. That's why I'm for getting rid of the income tax, because as an hourly employee, it doesn't matter how well you innovate, right? It doesn't matter how well you do your job. The only way you can provide more for your family is by being gone more and working more hours. So I think we need to let hardworking Georgians keep their own money. We need to follow the federal example and get rid of tax on tips, tax on overtime. And then when we talk about the interpersonal relationships, and I think we need to have opportunities for families who are looking to do the right thing and support one another to have tax advantages. So for example, if you are a parent and you have a 19 or 20-year-old that comes home from college and wants to get their feet back underneath them before going into the workforce, going out buying their own house, you can't claim them on your taxes anymore. You can't claim them as a dependent, right? They've aged out. But you should have an opportunity for an income tax credit, for as long as the income tax is there, to be able to write off all the extra expenses that you take by bringing that person back into your home. And I think the same should be true on the other end. If you're helping with your parents or with your grandparents and you're sharing that load and you're sharing that cost, we need to make that an advantage to you. We need to incentivize families everywhere that we can. I think it comes back to how do we strengthen that family unit, and that should be the prism in which we're making all of these policy decisions. Is it good for the family?
Steve.
Well, I've been hearing a lot about housing. You know, we've got a housing problem in Cherokee County, and it's probably because of all of what we've been doing to try to keep it as rural as we can. But what it's done is caused the property values to go up because everybody's coming in and building these huge houses, and nobody can afford them. But the problem is that you cannot buy a piece of property here now and build a small house on it because of the property value. So what we need to do is go down and work on cutting the income tax so that our employees and our families can have more money to spend on housing. And, you know, the economy, we've got to grow our economy so our kids, when they graduate from school, they can go and get a good job. And so, you know, without, that right there is the two main things I think we need to do is work on cutting the tax, grow our economy, and work on our education so that when they do get out of school, they can go get a good job.
Brian.
You know, we didn't get a chance to talk about our backgrounds when we started this, but I've spent the last 35 years as an entrepreneur, built 10 companies, did 2 in venture capital, 1 in private equity. I've written 4 books on business, finance, and negotiation, and 1 about overcoming childhood trauma. I consult for major companies up to Fortune 500. I've sat on city council for 4 years, and people ask me all the time, what is your best accomplishment in your life? What's the one thing that stands out in everything that you've done? And my answer is my children. My children are my legacy, and your children are your legacy. And every decision we make as parents generally involves, is it going to be good for our kids? How many times have you seen politicians in Washington specifically who make short-term decisions to try to buy votes that affect our future in a negative way? This happens the same at the state level. We need to take this seat and make sure that every decision we make doesn't hurt our children in the future for a short-term benefit. And that is my entire theory on what we do moving forward. It's got to be good for the kids.
Lance.
Could you repeat the question again, just so I understand the root of it?
Yeah, what do we need to do as a society? Backbone of a strong society is the family unit. What do we need to do to make family great again?
Okay, as the government, as the father in the home, or how can the government?
As a state senator, what would you be doing?
Okay. Well, Mother Teresa said, if you want to fix the world, go home and love and take care of your family. It's not the teacher's job to teach my kids to behave, and it's not my pastor's job to disciple my children. So at first, as a father, it's my job to raise my family and to teach them to be prepared for society and culture. But as a state senator, I want to eliminate the state income tax. I want to make sure abortion, which is that's the biggest threat to human life in our nation, is abortion. So first, they have to have an opportunity to be born. Next thing is that school choice. So we have freedom to put our kids where we decide that our kids should be. And is it moral? Is it constitutional? Does it limit government? Does it increase your freedom? That's what we can do to give choice back to the families. And then help them to understand that we got their back, not some bloated corporate tax incentive garbage going down and all this government corruption that's down there.
I do want to point out real quick that as you guys talk, I don't know if y'all can see, but you are on the screens behind you. All of you look super cute. And I do want to thank those of y'all that are filming and making sure this gets streamed and shared and all that stuff, because you guys are giving great answers. And I look forward to, this is a great audience, but I look forward to more people being able to watch it as well. Governor Kemp recently signed Georgia's Religious Freedom Restoration Act into law after a decade-long struggle, highlighting the political resistance religious liberties does face in our state. RFRA specifically protects individuals and organizations from government actions that infringe on their religious beliefs. As you look at the signing of RFRA, do you think we are done on the religious freedom fight now that we have that? Or in light of that, do you view and assess ongoing threats to religious freedom or the First Amendment as a whole? And what can we do to protect this first constitutional right? And I will start with Brian.
Sure, I said this before and I'm going to say it again. Folks, we're 6 seats away in the Senate and 11 in the House from losing the Republican control of this state. If we lose the Republican control in this state, all those religious freedoms that we enjoy today, that we want to take even farther, we're going to lose. I'm telling you, they're going to come after us. We need to not just focus on Senate District 21, we need to focus on the entire state. We need to focus on the 10 seats that are about to flip in the Senate, because you're getting an entire new culture coming up in the Georgia Senate in the next election. We've got to focus on the big picture as well as Senate District 21 so that we don't lose what we have and we have the ability to take it to the next level.
Lance.
Yeah, I agree with Brian, but single-mindedness is what God can bless. So we have to take a firm stance on the truth about all of these things, because he's not wanting half steps or compromises about any of it. He can only bless single-mindedness regardless of whether or not, that immediately creates unity. Sometimes we have to suffer for the truth and allow people to catch up. But if we are single-minded and do the right thing, I think that's what will get it done.
Bryce.
I do think RFRA was a good first step. I think there's a lot of other things we can do to help get the government out of the way of the church. So, for example, the church that I attend, we meet on Sunday evenings because we share a facility with another church, and we always have dinner together. And if we wanted to invite a guest to come and have dinner with us, we could do that. But if we wanted to open that up to feed anybody in need, anybody that was homeless, etc., we would then have to go through an extensive process of checks from the Department of Public Health. We'd have to get sign-offs, we'd have to have inspections, we'd have to do all of this stuff. For so long, the government has been taking over the role of the church, right? A thing came up a while back about the Atlanta Food Bank losing some funding because of some Doge efforts, and the question was asked, well, would you support that? And I said, well, I think we're asking the wrong question. The question is not, should the food bank receive funding? The question is, who should fund it? Is it coming from the government or is it coming from the church, right? The church is the one who's supposed to be leading on these issues. There's 3 pillars that God instituted for human flourishing. It's the family, it's the church, and government. And each of those pillars has to work well within its own sphere of influence. And I think right now there's plenty of ways that the government is still intruding on the work of the church, and it's up to us to help get that out of the way.
I think Steve.
Well, I agree with all these fellows on this issue, but one thing that Brian said, they're going to keep coming back. Well, they never stopped. They keep on fighting against it. They would love to see us defeated and go back and take those liberties away. So I would fight for everything we can to keep that freedom.
Okay. 2 quick questions that just mention a name without, giving further clarification. Who is your favorite political hero / inspiration that is dead? Dead.
All right.
Brian.
Ronald Reagan.
Steve.
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan.
Dwight Eisenhower.
Okay.
That's a lot. Let me have a longer conversation later about it. It's not that I hate Reagan. I just love Eisenhower.
Who is your favorite political hero or inspiration that is alive and kicking? Bryce.
My former boss, Governor Mike Huckabee, now Ambassador to Israel.
Okay. Lance.
Donald Trump.
Steve.
Donald Trump.
Brian.
Trump's changing America.
Okay. As you prepared to run this campaign, I imagine and I would hope that you have been following the Georgia General Assembly. Outside of issues that we have discussed tonight, what is something that the legislature did this year that was good? And what was something that the legislature did this year that was bad? Lance.
I'm not. Can you ask the question again?
What was something in the 2025 legislative session that the Georgia General Assembly did that was good, that you support, that you like? And what was something that they did in the 2025 legislative session that they did that was bad, that you don't like?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the bills, particularly one that comes to mind right now.
Okay, that's fine. Bryce?
I think one of the things they did really well this year was they passed age verification for pornography websites. That was critical to protecting our kids and blocking access to this harmful material that preys on them. These sites come after your children, they track them down, and if we're looking at good families, strengthening families, protecting our kids is first and foremost. I think that needs to go a step further. We can talk more about that later. One of the things that they did that was bad was they continued to increase spending. Over the last 10 years, our state budget has increased by 65%, while our population has only increased by 19%. Our spending has drastically outpaced our growth, and we have to rein it in.
Brian?
Lake and Riley Act, number one thing they did good. What they did bad, they apparently got into an argument in the last day and quit early. Come on, guys.
Steve?
I agree. Lincoln Riley Act, and then the banning men from playing in girls' sports. And they did leave early that night because we had a bill down there that was supposed to get passed and it didn't make it.
Mm-hmm. Y'all may not know that. They actually quit early. Yeah.
First time in history.
Yeah.
Okay. There is an LGBTQ agenda that has become pervasive in our state and our culture. One of the things our organization does is try to push back on that. How big of an issue is that to you? And how do you believe that you as a state senator could combat this agenda? Steve.
Tough one. First of all, I don't agree with that lifestyle, but I don't really know what the answer to the question is as far as that goes. As far as fighting it, I don't know what the issues they're looking for.
Okay.
I just oppose the whole lifestyle.
Okay. Brian.
Sure. Are y'all familiar with when the free sex change surgeries for transgender prisoners came up? Y'all remember that? And y'all remember when the entire Democratic caucus got up and walked out when we denied funding? Remember that? I'm going to say this again. We are 6 votes away in the Senate and 11 in the House from losing the Republican state of Georgia. If we lose it, this is why as a senator you have to not just be involved in your district, but you have to be involved across the state. You have to help people that are going to help you, because if we lose it, it's coming back.
Lance.
As a culture, our soft approach on that lifestyle was the pathway to transgenderism. That type of confusion, allowing it and us being soft on it and not standing up against it, was a door for the enemy to create this level of complete and total insanity with transgenderism. We should educate, we need to love gently, period, every human being. But the truth is the truth, and that stuff is not only sin, but it's the worst kind of sin, according to the Word of God, not according to Lance Calvert. And we need to stand up and tell the truth. And if that causes persecution, or if that causes somebody to not want a Senate seat, then so be it, because our children are waiting for adults to tell the truth. And they'll follow the truth. And they need some heroes to step up and say, look, I don't care what this costs me, but that stuff is wrong, and I'll work with you to figure out whatever you're going through, but let's get out of that lifestyle. It's a detriment to you.
Bryce.
I think there's two pieces to the equation. The first is the gospel of Jesus Christ, right? The gospel is the only thing that changes hearts and minds for eternity. The second is speaking truth in love, right? For a long time, our culture has lied to us and said that family is made up of parents and children. It's not. It's made up of moms and it's made up of dads, and moms and dads produce children. And speaking these things clearly, and again, in love, is really important. And there's times to be upset. I'm very angered about the puberty blocker stuff. It is absolutely atrocious, and we should be righteously upset about that. But if we're going to win hearts and minds, if we're going to move the needle on these issues, we have to do it with that gospel mindset, right? And we also have a tremendous history of natural law to back up all of these things. So I think we also have to watch the local issues, right? These things are pervasive. They come to your city council meetings. They come to your school board meetings. It's everywhere, and we have to have our spidey sense up all the time. So it's a undying effort. It's a faithful effort, and it's one, again, done in truth and love.
I asked everybody that question, right? All of you got a chance to respond to that question? I think so. I'm trying to be creative with how I do the orders, and that's
Too fast for you.
Doing great.
Y'all are great. y'all doing outstanding. Look, Bryce and Brian almost got into a fist fight. I had to break them up earlier over this issue of whether Georgia is a swing state or not. But most media outlets would say we are a swing state. Donald Trump certainly spent a good bit of time, energy, and money here last election cycle. We are facing an existential moment in Georgia in 2026. We have a United States Senate seat. We have 8 constitutional officers, 14 congressional seats, and 236 legislative seats on the ballot, not to mention local races in 2026. What is your vision for how we win that election? You'll be on the ticket with the governor and United States Senate candidate, as well as all those other positions. What are you looking for in those kinds of leaders? And how do we not just eke by in the 2026 election, but how do we build permanent momentum for a victorious conservative movement in the state of Georgia? So we're not talking about being a swing state next time we get together, but we're talking about how we build on deep red, and let's not put it in partisan terms, deep conservative, God-glorifying policies in our state. And I will start with Bryce.
I think we have to treat primaries as the crucial element of vetting that they are, right? Primaries is your opportunity to ask questions of every candidate, and if they can't answer them, move on to the next. I'm looking for leadership that's going to help us cut the income tax and eliminate it completely. I'm looking for leadership that's going to help us pass universal school choice. I'm looking for leadership that's going to push the transgender the ban on puberty blockers for minors. I'm looking for folks that are going to champion families. I'm looking for folks that are going to lead with moral clarity. I'm looking for people who haven't changed their position just to match political wins. And I'm looking for folks that can speak and cast a vision. Because I do believe that the idea of strong families is something that goes across spectrums, right? We may disagree on what that means, but we all want a better life for our kids than what we had. We think our medical bills are just extreme and overfraught with all these different types of things. We can work together on so many of these issues by casting a vision for lower taxes, for better free markets, for better education. I think that's a winning cycle.
Okay. Lance.
Single-mindedness. When you take a stand for the total truth, it's going to cost you. It'll cost you in the church, it'll cost you in the secular world, it'll cost you in the community, it'll cost you as a senator or a governor. If you're willing to pay a price, an initial price for standing up for the truth completely and willing to take whatever loneliness or persecution that takes, that'll birth things in the spirit that can do things you can't do. You take a stand and pay whatever that price is, and it'll happen from God. He'll do it. He's just looking for somebody that's willing to stand in the gap and stand up for complete single-minded truth, and all of this stuff will turn around.
Steve.
Well, first of all, you follow Donald Trump's lead. You go after the issues that are important. You got economy, education, and freedom. You know, that's what we got to find. Keep the people in office, make sure you vet them, and make sure they're on board with the MAGA Donald Trump agenda, and keep moving it forward.
Brian.
I said this a little bit ago, the Public Service Commission race that just happened, we have roughly 100,000 Republicans in Senate District 21 and only 1,300 voted. Across the state, Democrats outvoted Republicans 2-1. It's not going to make any difference if we have more Republicans if we don't vote. If we want to keep this state red, if we want to move our agenda forward, we have got to get people engaged in the political process and get them out to vote. Y'all are here tonight because you're engaged in the process, and I applaud you for that. But there's 175 people here out of 145,000 registered voters in Senate District 21. We've got to get people to vote. That's the key. That's going to require leadership. It's going to require people who are going to run for office that are going to be able to get the things done. They're going to have to be able to inspire you. We need good leaders. We need good people running for these offices. But more importantly, we got to vote.
All of you, except the designated Eisenhower fan over there, said that you love Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan said that we need to govern with bold colors, not pale pastels. Can each of you take 30 seconds to respond to that? And we'll just go in the inverse order. Brian.
I've honestly never heard that from him. My favorite quote from Ronald Reagan is, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Okay.
I love Ronald Reagan.
Steve.
Well, my favorite quote is Gorbachev, tear down that wall. He was a strong leader, strong military, and that's what I admired about him.
Lance.
My quote was on Johnny Carson when he said, people are looking to government to make a change, but all too often, government's the problem.
I'll actually answer the question. You talked about bold colors, painting in bold colors. What does that mean? It means casting a vision. It means showing people what the future could look like. What does it look like when our children are thriving in strong schools with strong teachers? What does it look like when we're keeping our hard-earned money and able to invest it in our local businesses and our local economy? What does the future look like where we don't have to have two parents working their tail off just to pay the bills? We have to have somebody that's casting a bold vision for the future and understands how to get there and is willing to work to make it happen.
All of you are super duper smart people and educated and thoughtful folks, but you don't know what you don't know when you step into the state senate. It's a complicated place. Who is the first person when you get to the Capitol that you're kind of rushing to find and say, hey, I want to learn from you, I want to be next to you, I want to watch how you vote, I want to connect with you, I want to be friends with you, I want to learn, and not, maybe you consider them a mentor, maybe not, but someone that you think, this is someone who's doing it right, and I want to partner with them in a unique way. We'll go back this way. Bryce.
If it's just one person, I'd probably say Greg Dolezal.
Okay. Lance.
Well, I went to Tacomac with Gooch the other night, and I listened pretty good, and it was a good start to a relationship, I suppose.
Taco Mac or Gooch?
Well, both, because
Okay.
I like Voodoo Magic Wings
Okay.
a lot.
Steve.
I'm friends with a lot of them down there, but Steve Gooch he's been instrumental, sharing his information with me. Dolezal, they're all good guys, and frankly, I'd be wanting to talk to all of them, learn all I can from every one of them.
Brian.
That's a good answer, but I believe Gooch and Dolezal are resigning within the next couple of weeks to run for higher office, so if you're looking for them, they won't be there. I'm with Steve. This is a collaborative effort. We got to get to know everybody. I got to tell you, in city council and in business, one of the things that I've prided myself on is surrounding myself with smart people who know more about things than I do in specific areas. You put good people together in a room that have lots of different ideas, and that's how we come to the best decision. So I would collaborate with everyone.
All right, two final questions. Well, that puts me in a box. I may think of something else really good to ask you, but two final questions. This first one is an open-ended question. So we have talked about a lot of issues tonight, but we may have missed something that you're super passionate about that these people need to know about you. Take 60 seconds or less to talk about an issue that you haven't had a chance to talk about tonight that people need to know that you're passionate about, and I'll start with Lance.
Well, I started a business in 2000, and I've been doing that business for 25 years. I was a technician in the field, and I grew technicians around me. And then I became an account manager of those techs, and then I grew account managers around me. And since then, I've put C-title leaders, executives that are older than me and smarter than me, in between me and that whole team. We're doing over $5 million this year by the grace of God, but we're a nationwide facility management company. We lead 5,000 subcontractors across the whole country. I'm going to take that leadership down to the Capitol building, and I'm going to build a coalition of people around. I'm going to listen to them, and I'm going to come up with moral, good standards that are constitutional and that limit government, and fight for the people of Georgia, the people of this district, and the people of the country.
Steve.
Well, I'm passionate about my family first and foremost, God, family, and then the country. But the one thing that I keep hearing over and over is property tax issues. So I will explain my theory on property tax a little bit. After 10 and a half years of it, most people don't understand the way the property tax works in Cherokee County. And so the county commissioners are responsible for the M&O property tax. That don't count school tax. That's just the M&O that runs the county business. So I went back and pulled the records over the last 10 years. In 2013, the M&O rate that we control was 5.98 mils. Today, it's 5.17 mils, which is cheaper than it was 10 years ago. That's on the part that the commissioners control. So with all the property values climbing like they have been, the elderly and the seniors, my 85-year-old mother was having to pay school tax. So I took offense with that. So I started the campaign with our commissioners that we needed to do something about it. So we started the conversation, and we, went with our state delegation, and they're the ones that put it on the ballot for us to do away with the cap on the school tax. So now, if you live in Cherokee County, as of January 1st of 2025, and you're 62 or over, you will no longer have to pay school tax. So we had a bill down at the Capitol that didn't get through on the last night, like Will said, that they were supposed to stay there and do it. It would have been a 1-cent sales tax that would have done away with the M&O property tax that the commissioners control. So if you were a senior in Cherokee County, if that bill had passed, it would have been on a ballot, of course, and then the county would have got to vote on it. But if you were a senior, the only tax you would have to pay is your fire tax and your park bond, which would be very little. So I'm under the impression I'd like to see people write checks for, instead of paying one property tax bill, I think we ought to have to pay a school tax bill, fire tax bill, so everybody could see where the money goes. So it's not the county commissioner's fault every time, because the values are set by the state. They set the guidelines of the property evaluations. The county commissioners doesn't. So we have guidelines. We've gotten warned for the last several years. When we almost had to get a fine last year, we had to file an appeal that our property valuations were coming in too low. So the state of Georgia sets that. I tried to get the governor to freeze the property values 2 years ago, and they couldn't do it. So, but if you've got the homestead exemption, if your property value appraisal goes up, when you signed on for that homestead exemption, your property tax that we control is frozen. But unfortunately, the school tax is not. So there's a lot of people out there that talk about property tax, don't understand how it really works. So that's what I'm passionate about, trying to explain the way property tax actually works.
I feel like we're missing a chalkboard up here. That's a good detailed property tax. Bryce.
Yeah, I started to allude to it a minute ago and then realized my time was basically out, and so I kind of muffed the ending. But certificate of need. Certificate of need is basically like a franchise for our healthcare system, and it is terrible. Just like we talked about with the schools, there's not one industry in the world that does better with less competition. But right now, that's how our medical system works, right? So your local hospital has an area around it, and if they want to build a new hospital, they have kind of first dibs, and they have to prove that there's a need, as opposed to simply letting folks actually innovate and let folks come in and bring competition to our medical costs and help drive those medical costs down. If you pay out of pocket for medical expense, it's about a quarter of what they're trying to charge your insurance company. That's the way the hospital is regulated. And the reason for that is because the insurance company has quotas on how many claims they're supposed to deny every month. There is a difficulty in the ability of these medical institutions to actually get paid, which is why we have such a high inflation. I'm a little bit of a nerd on this. Stick with me. I think certificate of need's terrible. It's got to go. We just passed tort reform. The only way you ensure that tort reform works is by passing insurance reform as well. We have to hold insurance companies accountable because they're the ones that called for the reform on all of these lawsuits. Now we have to go back to them and say, listen, we did that work. Have you actually cut rates? Have you made things more affordable for the folks that you cover? Because if they're asking me, the answer is no, they have not. So I think we need to hold insurance companies accountable, and we need to get rid of certificate of need.
Brian.
I spent the last 20 years as a consultant working for companies from private to public, and my specialty is financial analysis and operational efficiency. When I ran for city council 4 years ago in Alpharetta, I went in with a specific agenda, and it's what we call responsible financial management of taxpayer dollars. Today we call that DOGE. Back then it was responsible financial management of taxpayer dollars. And we changed the entire way that the finance department in Alpharetta operates, from a transparency perspective to contracting to bid processing. And in that 3.5 years, we've saved millions and millions of dollars of taxpayer dollars for the city. Here's what I want you to understand. Alpharetta has about $115 million a year budget. $115 million. State of Georgia spends that every single day. Every day they spend about $115 million. If we're able to create this DOGE caucus that I want to create, and I can save millions in Alpharetta, we can save billions at the state. And then we can fund the elimination of the income tax. We can fund school vouchers. We can fund pathways to coverage. But it all starts with DOGE, cutting the expenses, and following the money. And that's what excites me.
All right, we're about to ask the last question, and I really wanted to make the last question what kind of facial hair is best, but my team vetoed that, and I do want to thank our team. If you haven't met them, we have Jennifer Austinson floating around here somewhere. She carried in the food earlier, and she's the one that organized the food. So that's the best role of all. We have Rich DeAugustinus, who's sitting right there in the bold blue sweater thing there with the great hair. And then we have Chelsea Thompson, who's floating around here. She's our policy attorney, and she's the one whose job is going to be to bother these guys the most when they're in the state Senate and make sure that they're doing the things that they promised to you tonight. So I'm very grateful for our team. We've got other members of our team floating around there, including our Church Ambassador Network Director, and we're looking forward to getting pastors connected with you guys if you get elected as well. I'm going to ask this final question, and then I'm going to say a few words, and then we're going to close in prayer over you guys, if that's okay. Yes. And then we'll wrap up, and I know they would appreciate if y'all stayed here until 11 p.m. asking them one-on-one questions. Final question. If you are the next state senator from District 21, yeah, the people voted for you, but God put you there. And God wouldn't be surprised by your election. God designed you uniquely to be the state senator for Senate District 21 for this moment. You're sitting on stage with some other great people, and you got two that are also candidates that are not here, that have great qualities as well. What is it about you in terms of how God has designed you, how He's gifted you, how He's equipped you, both through experiences in life, through talents that you may have, through viewpoints that you may have, through a worldview and perspective that you have that is unique to you? And this is not a time to just throw blows at other candidates, but you're special, and you're asking these people to vote for you and say, you're my guy. Why and what is special about you as we close this out? And we'll just go straight down the line. We'll start with Brian.
Sure. When you think about who you're going to vote for this seat, the word experience comes to mind, because experience is going to be the thing that either causes the person to get elected to succeed or fail. And experience is about both success and failure in past life. Remember, I'm the kid who failed out of high school, got back in and joined the military, spent 4 years in the Air Force, 4 years in the Army. I got a good, fair dose of discipline in the military that I needed. I spent 35 years building businesses. I like to say that I've tried more than most people have ever tried in their life. I've failed more than most people have ever tried. And yet I've also succeeded quite a bit. And those failures and those successes are experience. And they teach you how to make decisions. And they teach you what's right and wrong. I've written books about this, and I've sat on city council. That's experience. It's government experience. It's understanding how to work within, in my case, a city council with 400 city employees and 6 city directors. It's experience that's going to matter here. Because this seat is so critical, because whoever gets this seat is going to move up in seniority very quickly, this is not the time for on-the-job training. This is a time to put somebody at the Senate with the experience to go after the things we need to go after, which I'm going to say again, follow the money, Doge, cut the expenses, and then we can fund everything we want to do. But you have to have somebody with experience to do that.
Steve.
Well, politics was never on my agenda. It was never on my bucket list. Back a few years ago, when I first ran for office, I had to be begged to do it on the last day of sign-ups by a group of people. We had 2 hours left to sign up, and I gave them 3 conditions. 1, I'm not cutting my hair and shaving my beard because I'm not going to conform into a politician. Number 2, I'm not financing a campaign out of my own pocket because I can't afford it. And number 3, my wife and I go on our anniversary trip every year right before the election, and I'll come home Sunday and the election's on Tuesday. If you can live with that, sign me up. I didn't think they would do it, but they did. So here we are, 10 years later. Like I said, ran first time, beat a 12-year incumbent, ran 2 terms unopposed, and I think what my skills are is communication. I've got the ability to work with people, find out what they need, and try to make it work for everybody. After 10 years of this, it wears on you a little bit, but at the same time, I've earned respect from a lot of people in this district, and I think that's what my skill level is to communicate, find out what the people need, and take it to the Capitol with the relationships that I already have in place, and I can represent District 21. Now, I'm not going to be the slick-talking politician. I'm going to be the guy that stands out in the crowd that's very approachable. So anybody in the crowd out there that can pick me out fairly easy. But I will say this. I don't know who put this on Friday night, but Friday night in the West household is date night. So I got some heavy negotiations to do when I get home tonight. So anyway, I think that's my skill set right there is communication.
You can blame me, Steve. I'm really sorry for the strain it's on me.
I'll take a credit card number for dinner tomorrow night.
There you go.
Gift card to Al back.
All right, Lance.
I found out that the blood of Jesus made me in a perfect relationship with the Father. There's no kind of confidence that comes from understanding that blood completely gives you a perfect throne room experience and a relationship with Him where He can hear me clearly and I can hear Him. I don't get that right every minute, but that's the truth, and I didn't have the right confidence in my life until I realized I was in good standing with Him. I'm in perfect standing with Him, and if you have the Lord, you are too. And I think if we know that, we can get into single-mindedness and stand up to things where things come against you in every single direction. You can have grim looks from even inside the closest people in your life. And if you know that you're hearing from God to stand up for something, then you can stand even in extreme opposition. And that kind of confidence I didn't have until I realized it was perfect, my relationship with Him, because of the blood of Jesus. So that I believe that I have a unique understanding of the ability that confidence comes from that standing. So if I have opposition, I know that that's actually not the fact that I'm doing something wrong, but that's maybe evidence that I'm doing something right. And so I will take that confidence down there, and I'm a founder of a business from 2000, and that means vision. And I'm a CEO now of that company, and that means I can operate in the authority that I just talked about that comes from His love towards me that's unequivocal because of the blood of Jesus, not because of anything I've done righteous. So I will take the founder vision and the CEO authority that He's given me down there, and I will stand up for truth, and I will give this every single bit of everything He put in me to stand up against the entire bloated, every bit of it. And I'll build friends around it because I think that I can convince people down there that doing the right thing for the people will bless them.
Bryce.
When Brooke and I were originally approached about this opportunity, it was not something that was on our radar. It wasn't something that we were looking at. But we were asked to pray about it, and we did. And we sought wise counsel, and we thought that it might be what the Lord wanted us to do, and we decided to run. And when you decide to do something, I think it deserves your full effort. We're all concerned about our future, and I think I am just as concerned, if not more so than you. I have 2 kids. I have a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a baby on the way, and I'm looking at the future that they're going to grow up in, and I'm concerned. I'm concerned about runaway spending. I'm concerned about harmful ideologies. I'm concerned about what type of world are they going to inherit. And I think for this district and for this seat, we need somebody that understands what it means to work. We need somebody who understands what it means to sacrifice and to serve. And I think it's a vocational calling, and it's something that you do as a team. And my wife and I are committed that if you trust us with this assignment, that we will work our tails off for you. I will represent you well. I'll communicate with you. We will build coalitions. We will get things done. And we'll do it in a God-honoring way. We'll do it in a way that brings glory to the Lord and, again, reclaims every square inch.
Awesome. A couple closing thoughts, and then I want to pray over you guys if I can. First of all, thank you to each of you as candidates. Thank you all for coming out and listening and engaging. I thought all of you did great, and I learned a lot. I know Brian Will likes this thing called Doge, and Steve West won't cut his beard. Lance Calvert wants you to be single-minded, and Bryce Futch wants to dance with you. But I thought they all did a great job, and I really appreciated their candor and transparency. And I want to charge you with I remember one time sitting, my dad's a pastor, I remember sitting in kind of an ordination service, and the guy kept saying, I want to charge you, and I was like, what are you charging my dad with? I want to charge you to take this seriously. You are stepping into a unique time. Not that you aren't taking it seriously, but you're stepping into a unique time with big issues, and it's not a political gig. It's a kingdom gig, and each of you are stepping into an arena where you'll be serving King Jesus and his people, and I'm charging you with taking that seriously and doing it well to the utmost for his glory. I want to talk to each of y'all very briefly. If you are the kind of person that comes to a forum and says, the organization that hosted this, I really want to write a check to them, I really want to talk to you. But I do want to personally engage with you and engage you with our organization. We're very engaged in all these issues at the Capitol. We engage in elections. We have our Church Ambassador Network that engages churches. We've got an upcoming program that we're going to be announcing that trains up and raises up next generation leaders. And so we want to connect with you from an organizational perspective, number one. Number two, I also have a gala coming up, and it is a shindig. It's not just a party, it's a shindig. And we're very excited about it, and it will hurt my feelings if that room is not packed with people like you. And so if you want to come to that event, talk to Rich or Jennifer or Chelsea or myself, or grab a flyer. We have the greatest basketball coach known to man, Coach Bruce Pearl, is our keynote speaker. And if you've not heard of him, Google him, watch him on YouTube, because he's awesome. And he's Auburn's basketball coach. War Eagle, amen? Oh, shoot. But anyway, we would love to see you there. You can get tickets at www.frontlinegala.com. And like I said, we can connect you with that as well. But I appreciate you. Thanks for your engagement. Thank you to this church. I'll give Pastor Cliff, the film team back there, and everybody a round of applause for this church. And with that, let's pray over these candidates. If you want to reach out your hands, you can, but we want to lift these guys up. Father, I thank you for these candidates. I thank you for encouraging them to run. Lord, I thank you for Stephanie and for Jason, even though they're not here. Lord, I thank you for them, for calling them, for raising them up. And Lord, I pray that you give folks in this room opportunities to connect with them. Lord, I do thank you for Brian. I thank you for Steve and for Lance and for Bryce. And I pray that you encourage them, bless their families, watch over them. Lord, open up the right doors, connect them with the right people. Lord, not just so that they win their votes or get their money or connect with them, but also so that those people can speak into their lives. That each of these candidates will be encouraged by the right people, blessed by the right people, but also shaped and sharpened by the right people. May they hear the right issues that matter to the people of this district. May pastors and believers speak into them. And Lord, I do pray for the church as a whole, that it will be Christians in Senate District 21 that determine who their representative is going to be. May every believer in Jesus Christ turn out to vote and to vote according to their conscience and according to their faith.
Amen.
May you use organizations like Frontline and churches like this one to be gospel witnesses. And Lord, as each of these men run for state senate, and as you've called one of them to be the next state senator, we do pray that you hold their heart in your hand, that you prepare for them for that moment, but that as they face pressures at the Capitol and within the district, that you hold them accountable to your word, to what they've said here tonight, to what they've promised the voters that they're going to do. And Lord, I pray that their motivations will be pure and that it will be to follow you and serve your people. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you all. Thank you.